Yes, good afternoon. It's my true pleasure to be with you tonight, this evening. 20 years is a lot, actually. Not too many conferences manage to live for so many years and to deliver tangible results in boosting dialogue between two nations, but also in implementing very specific projects which benefit both of our nations and Europe as a whole. So first of all, I would like to thank Heinrich Böll Foundation Stiftung for consistency, for commitment, and for the effort you are making. And I'm glad that you found reliable partners in Ukraine, because without partners in Ukraine, it would be much more difficult for you to become who you are today. It is much easier to talk about local governance in the times of peace, because everything is clear. We learned from so many examples around the world that the power of the nation lays at the local level. When the war starts, you feel tempted to begin to believe that everything gets centralized. Power, resources, attention. But scratch a little bit, and you will see again and again that the power still comes from the bottom. The real power is there. Instructions may come from the top to the bottom, but in the end, the strength of the state is grounded in the daily decisions made by local authorities, by people on the ground. Ukrainian communities are first to respond, to protect, to serve their residents. They maintain essential services. They uphold critical infrastructure. And they safeguard civilians under fire, either directly near the front line or indirectly under the fire of Russian missiles and drones. So this is why I find it particularly important to continue emphasizing the importance of local governance and people working on the ground in times of war, where all conversations get so centralized. And this is why I believe that the focus of your conference this year is so fundamentally important for the overall effort. So my point is clear. Ukraine's resilience is built from the ground up. It's a bottom-up force rooted in local leadership and collective responsibility for the situation on the ground. I spent 20 years traveling across the world as a diplomat. Now, for the last year, I'm enjoying traveling across Ukraine. I've been to all corners, cities, towns, and villages, and I see that the real power of Ukraine is there. And I see that we must cherish it and we must respect it and further empower it. This is what makes the state stronger. Of course, communities cannot exist outside of the state, but it's a two-way street. Communities make the state stronger, the state makes communities stronger. If one of them deviates or violates this social contract, then the structure of the country, of the nation, begins to fracture. And this is where real problems begin. So communities must be responsible members of the whole, while the center, the capital, the central administration, the central government, should not try to suppress or to limit local authorities in order to strengthen itself. Striking this balance is a daily effort. It's a struggle. It's never easy. But we should hold that line, because this balance is what makes us resilient and strong and makes us who we are, the Ukrainians. Now, how do we get there? A year ago, a friend of mine from a village in Kherson region texted me a message asking whether I could find time to meet a woman from a village in Germany. And I had plenty of time. It was something like 1 month after after I left the government. But more importantly, I really wanted to hear the story, the voice of someone from the bottom of the country, after hearing the voice from the top of the country, of so many countries for so many years. And I met with that woman. Her name is Katrin Erke. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name. And she melted my heart. She didn't know much about Ukraine before the invasion began, but she saw the coverage, she read about the context, and she dedicated herself to helping Ukraine, but most importantly, to building bridges between a village in Kherson region and her own village somewhere in the heartlands of Germany. We both need more Katrin Erkes. We need more people like this who will build these bridges, build these bonds, and make our relations stronger. Secondly, I know that you're focused on very important and big things. I call on you, I urge you, I plead to you to pay attention to the regions on the left bank of Dnipro River and in the south of Ukraine. This is so fundamental. Historically, European countries were more closely connected to our western regions and central regions. But one of the threats that we have to really address now is fracturing the country basically in half, because regions closer to the front line, they suffer more from the war naturally, but also there has been a very strong outflow of people and businesses from the left bank to the right bank. And I hate actually using these terms left and right bank, because they would be more relevant to the situation in the 17th and 18th centuries, not in the 21st one. But history is back, and reality is that we have to go to the east, we have to go to the south, and we have to do as many things as possible to send a very clear message. You are not abandoned, we are with you, and we are here to help. Secondly, I would call on your foundation and other institutions who are willing to do something with Ukraine, for Ukrainian local governance, to strengthen their resilience, to large-scale projects. So develop projects in one region, pilot them in one location, and then adapt it and large-scale, so that they could pop up as mushrooms all across Ukraine. We need to cover all of the country, and we need holistic approach to the same issues, to the same fundamental issues across the country. My next call would be to pay special attention to the situation with veterans in the local communities. Peace in post-war Ukraine will largely depend on the situation on the ground, in villages, in towns. And that will largely depend on how well our veterans will be reintegrated, how strongly they will be engaged, and how deep will be the mutual understanding between those who fought and who didn't fight in the war. This is fundamental. Let me take it to something to what may sound extreme to you, but I don't think we need a separate veteran policy in Ukraine, because every policy in Ukraine should be a veteran policy. These people, the way they feel at home in their communities, the way communities will be able to integrate them, will define safety, peace, and prosperity of Ukraine. Finally, Ukraine will be a member of the European Union. I have no doubts in that. Ukraine needs EU, but EU needs Ukraine as well. What we have to do is to actually teach our communities what the European Union is about, what kind of benefits it offers, and how these communities can contribute to strengthening the bonds between Ukraine and the European Union. So it would be extremely helpful to do even such simple things as teaching local officials how to work with European funds, how to apply for grants, how to report on them, how to use the money received, how to build intercultural dialogue. This is the glue that will stick all of us together. There are no easy tasks ahead of us. And we've been through so many difficult moments. But, and you alluded to some previous speakers, alluded to some of them in their opening remarks. But the truth is this: governments come and go, but nations stay. And Ukraine and Germany are going to stay. And the people of Ukraine and the people of Germany are going to stay. And we have to bring them closer to each other, as close as we can get. There will always be problems, there will always be issues that we need to overcome, but we should be guided by a very simple purpose: that our two nations will be there for decades and centuries to come. And we have to work long term, because the success, the freedom, the prosperity and security of Europe today, tomorrow, and even after tomorrow depends on how well how successful will we be in explaining the importance of Ukraine to Europe and building these bonds. And I cannot imagine a better country than Germany to take the lead on this. So thank you once again for supporting us, and thank you for building these bridges with various communities across Ukraine. This is fundamentally important. The future is in our hands. Let's make it.